Welcome to another car review for your growing family. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel on the bottom right for new reviews every single week. But here's the cheapest Mercedes you can get. This is the 2020 A220. It starts at just over $37,000 in Canada and just under $33,000 in the States. You're going to want to pay a little bit more than that though. You're going to want to get the package that gets you the amazing latest infotainment system in this car. So let's go take a look at that and everything else. And great news, it actually works pretty good for families. It's the 2020 A220 this week from Mercedes on Family Wheels. Yeah, that infotainment system is called the user experience, or MBUX for short, and this one is lovely. I'll get to that in just a second, but new for 2020, there is one thing. This was a brand new car in 2019, so there's not a lot of differences, but you can now get the A35 AMG, so that is actually the cheapest and the least powered AMG you can get. So this one will still have the 2-litre 4-cylinder engine, but it's putting out 302 horsepower. For the rest of them though, like this one, this still has the 2-litre 4-cylinder turbocharged engine, putting out 188 horsepower. It also has 221 pound-feet of torque, so there's a bit of a gap from the horsepower to the torque there, and it allows this car to get off the line pretty good. I would usually say that 188 horsepower isn't enough, but this one is pretty zippy around town. And if you're not buying it for a performance car, if you're buying it for an entry-level Mercedes, which is beautiful for that, then the engine is definitely adequate, and it's got that dual clutch 7-speed automatic, which is fantastic as well. So the drivetrain, and this one standard, you've got all-wheel drive as well. In the States you can actually choose if you want the 4MATIC or not, but this one in Canada we have it all. In Canada we also have this in a hatch, which starts at 221 horsepower, which is different how you got a starting point there. But in the States, unfortunately, you still do not have the hatch available. And to go with that decent performance, you're getting pretty good fuel economy as well. You're getting 8.4 litres per 100 kilometres combined and about 28 miles per gallon. So it's pretty decent. Before we get to how functional this is for families, because it's actually pretty good, and I'm going to compare it to some of its closest competitors as well, take a look at this, because it is the absolute star of the show. So the Mercedes-Benz user experience, they've put it in the A-Class like their starting car. It's two 10.5-inch screens sitting side by side that once, when you're looking at it, the steering wheel kind of cuts off the joining point, so it looks like one big long one. By the way, you only get the 7-inch screen if you're going for the base model. So the thing about Mercedes is, sure, you got the base model, but you got to sit there and spring for all these different packages to get all the rest of the driver stuff. Like there's some driver assistance stuff in there and driver safety equipment, which is absolutely fantastic in this car, but you got to buy this package to get that, and then buy that package to get that, etc. It's a bit confusing, but find out what you want. This car, by the way, doesn't have, the one they're letting me drive, doesn't have everything, and I feel like it's absolutely adequate. So the infotainment system, totally digital screens, high resolution. It's beautiful. You can totally customize it. And on the steering wheel, basically if you chop it in two, on this side with your buttons, you can control the dash, and then on this side, you can control the infotainment system. There is a lot to learn, but once you get used to it, you can set it up exactly how you want it. You also have the trackpad down here, which is very accurate, by the way. It'll take a little bit to get used to that as well. But the part that I love is the voice recognition in this, which I feel is very quick to respond and reasonably accurate as well. So you can activate it by saying, "Hey Mercedes,
how can I help you?
Turn on heated steering wheel."
Okay, I'm switching on the steering wheel heating.
"Hey Mercedes,
how can I help you?
Navigate home."
The route is being calculated.
This is also touchscreen, but the thing about this particular navigation is that not only will it split the screen because it's so big, it'll give you the map on one side, but then it will also have video on the other side, which is the view out the front. And then it will actually have your, just like you would on your Google Maps and stuff if you got that up, your arrows and your street signs showing you where to go. First time I've seen that on the interior of a car for the navigation, so that part of it is exceptional. It's got Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. It's also got wireless charging down the bottom with this little lever you can pull across so that your phone doesn't jump about everywhere. Okay, let's see how this works for families before we go for a drive. So the trunk is probably the smallest in its class, to be quite honest, but it still works. So this trunk has 14.8 cubic feet of storage, or 420 litres. That's a little bit more than the hatch. That has 370 litres. And Mercedes' own CLA sedan has a little bit more more as well. But by the way, that starts at $43,000, so it's like $6,000 more. And compared to some other cars, like the Honda Accord has a little bit more. That has 16.7 cubic feet, and the BMW 3 Series has 17 cubic feet. But our standardized test, it still went fine. It was the stroller, groceries, camera bag, soccer ball, diaper bag. It actually covers it with a little bit of room left over, not a whole lot. Then you go to the back seat here. So this actually has 33.9 inches of legroom for the rear, which is actually a little bit less than the Honda Accord and also the BMW 3 Series. It's about an inch and a tiny bit. But this still worked, actually. The kids still did not feel cramped. Rear-facing kids seat test, I will say that the front passenger had not a whole lot of room. My knees, I'm 6 feet tall, it wasn't on the glove box. But then when the kids are front facing, plenty of room, they could stand in the footwell, get themselves in their chair. The door arches are still kept reasonably high. That's not really the problem. It is the bottom side of it, which is actually the step-in part into the footwell is actually reasonably narrow because you're sitting pretty close to that wheel arch. And also the car sits really low. So if you are a little bit taller, getting kids in and out all the time, it will feel like you're bending your back a hell of a lot to try and get the kids in. And that's one thing I thought about this car. I wondered if it was going to feel as low and slightly claustrophobic as the CLA, and it does sit as low. I will say that when I've gone into parking lots and you got to get out the window to try and get your ticket is a bit of a struggle, and then my knees are banging against the wheel and everything. However, I want to say that I could definitely live with that because of the rest of what's going on in here and for how nice it is for the price that it is. Storage for the rest of the interior. The door trimmings have plenty of storage at the front. At the back, it doesn't have quite as much. You've only got this netting on the back of the driver and the passenger seats, which doesn't allow for a lot of storage. But this glove compartment is okay. It's got a decent amount. You've got a bit more down there where your wireless phone charging is. Panoramic sunroof is standard, which lets in a lot of natural light. So for, being a compact sedan, it's actually reasonably good in here.
3, 2, 1, blast off! Whoa! Whoa!
How was that?
Good.
All right, let's hit the road. This has been a really nice car to be in this week. It's been dry, so I haven't really tested out the all-wheel drive, but the one thing about Mercedes you've got to get used to is the gear lever being up here. It's been a smooth and responsive drive. It does have the speed adjustable power steering, but not too much. It never feels too light, but then it does feel nice and firm and connected when you do get up to speed. And the power delivery from this car is lovely with that dual clutch 7-speed auto. There is a bit of turbo lag, I'm not going to lie, and sometimes it does sort of jolt into action after a little bit of lag. Let's just check the performance of this without the kids in the car. So you've got your driving modes down here, you've got eco, you've got comfort, pretty standard for a lot of cars, you've got individual if you want to set it up the way you want it, and you've got sport. Let's have a little go of that. I'm not going to worry about the paddle shifts at the moment. I haven't been using them too much. I'm just going to floor it and see how it goes. Tiny bit of turbo lag, but it got in there pretty quick, and once it was there, it takes off pretty good for a car with 188 horsepower. And by the way, that peak horsepower is available at pretty high RPM. It's available at 5,800. These seats, while they're firm, they're not, soft on the edges like a plush couch or anything. They are quite firm, but they're top quality. By the way, there's different ways they're saving themselves some money in terms of the entry point for Mercedes. Like the passenger seat is totally manually adjustable and has no electric capability. You've also got the movement activated trunk on a sedan, which is nice, but it's only on the way up, it doesn't go back down. And then you don't have some other things like the rear climate control. The reverse camera is also very crisp, it's high resolution. You've got a couple of options on your camera, not as much as what you might get in the top package of a BMW and so on. That reverse camera and the sensors are fantastic. So that's another way they've cut out a little bit there to keep the price down and everything. And this doesn't have the 360-degree camera. You've also got pretty much every driver assistance package known to man available to you as well, but you kind of got to package that up, as I'd mentioned. So like the intelligent driving package has evasive steering assist and your emergency braking and that type of thing. So you can actually help you avoid having a collision, but that package is $1,900, and then to get that, you got to get 3 others totaling about $3,500. So let's do a quick price check, because even though this doesn't have all all of the packages, I certainly feel like it has plenty to impress you and to make for a pretty cool driving experience. So this one, as tested, this was $46,455. And here's the packages it's got on it. It's got the Mountain Grey Metallic, that's $890. It's got the Night package, which is $2,000. The Premium package, which is $3,000. Technology package, which is $1,600. You have to pay for Sirius satellite radio. Unfortunately, that was another $475. You've got the black open pore wood trim, which was another $250. And you've got the multifunction sports steering wheel, which is $250. So all in, this has got a few different add-ons, $46,455, which, by the way, is just $4,000 more than the highest priced Honda Accord, which is going to have more trunk space, a bit more legroom in the back. So that's the 2020 Mercedes A220. Hopefully you found this review useful. If you have, give it a like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel because we put out brand new reviews every single week. Until next time, from Family Wheels, I'm Kai.